So should we start now?
Yes, sir.
The outset, I welcome you all to this VCM, which is in fact initiated by our small chapter as a part of a knowledge sharing process, because as COVID-19 is in force, so we cannot do physical meetings. So now we have to get used to this VCMs. And today is the second one, in fact, which we have organized. And today's topic is a very interesting one, very relevant one. And we have an eminent speaker from Kolkata, Sri Manoj Tiwari, who will be deliberating at length on the topic. Welcome, sir, on this VCM. I also welcome all the participants, till now, all our members or colleagues to this meeting. And I hope that the attendance will be more as the time progresses. Today, coincidentally, is also the Teachers' Day. So as we should pay respects to our teachers, without whose support, without whose encouragement, we should not have been here. Now Kunjabi is himself a teacher, so we should all give him a big hand. He is now a teacher of LIMS also, so we should all give him a big hand. And as we all know, that today, this day is celebrated as a mark of respect to our great scholar, late President Dr. Radhakrishnan. So we should also pay our respects to him. With these few words, I welcome you all to this seminar once again. I request my colleague CA Jyoti Kumar Jain to introduce the eminent speaker of the day to the house, to the audience. Yes, Jyoti.
Hello. Yes. Thank you, Maheshwari ji. Good evening, friends, my dear friends, colleagues, and distinguished member. I, Jyoti Kumar Jain, take this pleasure in welcoming CA Manoj Kumar Tiwari to our VCM meeting under the structured CPA meet on recent amendments in income tax and other related developments, including ITR forms. CA Manoj Kumar Tiwari has done his graduation from St. Xavier College, Kolkata. He was adjudged National Scholar by the University of Calcutta and is a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has secured 10th rank on all India basis in the intermediate examination of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India and is currently the managing partner of Messrs. Manoj Tiwari and Associate Chartered Accountants. He has acted as faculty on various students programs conducted by ICAI and presently acts as faculty for several management institutes. Moreover, he is a regular speaker in the CPE program organized by ICAI and various branches, making him an eminent speaker. I, on behalf of all of us, would like to thank you for taking time out and addressing the gathering. We look forward to have an enriching session. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. So with this, for the next 2 years, Tiwari ji will be taking us through various amendments in the Income Tax Act. So, sir, the stage is all yours now.
Thank you, Maheshwari ji, the convener of beautiful study circle, beautiful city, beautiful people, and my friends from Imphal and other cities of Eastern India, because I presume a lot of people will be joining. Friends, the topic for the day is very simple, innocuous one. It's not complicated at all. And if at all it is complicated, over my deliberation will be for around 90 minutes, because there will be question answer session for last 20 minutes. So during the course of next 90 minutes, I hope I'll clear all your doubts through my deliberation. And if any doubt persists, even after that, last 20 minutes will be all yours. The topic is simple one, as I told you, and innocuous, very innocuous, not complicated at all. So first of all, let's talk about recent amendment. Then I'll talk about extension through ordinance and notifications. And finally, change in income tax return forms. Friends, I don't know whether I'll be able to do justice with change in income tax return forms, because that is itself a 80-minute topic. But what I'll do, I'll pick important ones in change in income tax return form so that nothing is left out out of your purview. So first thing first, share screen. Full screen. Yes, friends. Recent changes in income tax act. The very first one I'll be talking about is section 44AB. Section 44AB, as you can foresee, there are 5 clauses to section 44AB. Section 44AB, clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D, clause E. I'm not going to narrate all the clauses. I'll be only talking about the clause where change has been made. First clause A talks about every person carrying on business shall, if his total sales exceed or exceeds 1 crore rupees in any previous year. That means if you are in business and your turnover exceeds 1 crore rupees, turnover has exceeded 1 crore rupees, in that scenario you have to go for tax audit. Very simple, no issues. This they have amended this year by adding a proviso. What proviso says? Provided that in case of a person whose, there are two parts, aggregate of all amount received, including amount received for turnover during the previous year, in cash does not exceed 5% of said amount. What does it mean? That whatever aggregate of your receipt side, aggregate of all receipts, meaning thereby turnover, partner introduction, loans, whatever you have received during the year, sum total of that, and it should not exceed 5% in cash. Let's take up one example because it will be easier. Everything becomes easier through an example. Let's take this. My total sales is 4 crore. Out of that, 15 lakh is in cash. Partner has introduced 10 lakhs in cash. Loan 15 lakhs by way of NEFT or account paid check. So what is my total receipt? 425 lakhs. No problem. How much is cash receipt? 15 plus 10, 25 lakhs. What is 5% of total receipt? Total receipt is 425. 5% of 425 is 21.25 lakhs. How much is my cash receipt? 25. My cash receipt should not exceed 5% of total receipt. My cash receipt should not exceed 5% of total receipt. Here, 5% of total receipt is 21.25. What is my cash receipt? 25. So here my cash receipts have exceeded. In the example I have given, my cash receipt of payment, what I mean, your all expenditures, loans given, partners repayment, if partner have taken away money, total of all payments also. So if 5% of my cash does not exceed 5% of total receipt as well as 5% of total payments, in that case 1 crore will become 5 crore. This proviso says that if my cash receipt does not exceed 5% of total receipt and my cash payment do not exceed 5% of total payment, in that scenario, my limit of 1 crore becomes 5 crore. In that case, what happens? Up to a turnover of 5 crore, I do not have to go for tax audit. But the moment either of these, whether my cash receipts or cash payment exceed 5% of total receipt or total payment or both, if one of these is breached, is over, then limit is back to 1 crore. I hope this is clear. Yes, Maheshwari ji, it's okay. Unmute कीजिए sir. भूल गए वो अनम्यूट करना, लेफ्ट में होगा, लेफ्ट कॉर्नर में बटन होगा. छोड़ दीजिए. हाँ, yes माहेश्वरी जी. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. You can go ahead.
अब एक चीज बताइए, ये मैंडेटरी है कि ऑप्शनल है? Is it mandatory or optional? Please understand, it's mandatory. It's mandatory in the sense, if my cash receipt exceed 5% of total receipt or my cash payment exceed 5% of total payment, then in that case, my tax audit limit is at 1 crore again. So my turnover beyond 1 crore, I have to go for tax audit. So tax audit is no optional business. It is mandatory business. I hope that this part is clear. If any question remains, later on I can clarify.
Okay.
Another big change, sir, section 194N. Section 194N says, prescribes that every person, please understand, you have to give me your eyes, ears and heart for next 85 minutes only. I will return it dutifully. Every person being a banking company, engaged in carrying on business of banking, who is responsible for paying any sum, banking company, cooperative bank, post office bank. If it is responsible for paying any sum to the account holder, mind you, who it will pay? Account holder. Suppose you are maintaining a bank account and you are withdrawing money from it. You are withdrawing money from your bank. In that case, if your total withdrawals during the previous year exceed 1 crore, if your total withdrawals during the previous year exceed 1 crore, in that event, TDS has to be withdrawn by bank under section 198 at 2% beyond 1 crore. Let's take an example. Suppose my withdrawals are 140 lakhs in cash. The withdrawal has to be in cash. Withdrawals has to be in cash. They are trying to put a cap on cash withdrawals. Suppose my total withdrawals are 140 lakhs. So 140 lakhs minus 100 lakhs, 40 lakhs is a withdrawal beyond 1 crore, 2% of it, 80,000 TDS will be deducted by banker. Now let's take a situation. Is this TDS my income? Because sir, I'm a professional,
Hmm.
I'm raising a bill. So TDS is part of my bill because whatever I get, suppose I raise a bill of 100 rupees, 7.5% TDS. So I receive 92.5 and 7.5 is TDS. So TDS is normally my income. What will happen in this case? Is TDS which is deducted by banker my income? No, sir. But where is the provision? Section 98, in section 198, 198, they have added a proviso saying that this TDS which is deducted by banker will not be treated as income. Naturally, it can't be my income. What will happen? But get benefit of TDS.
मतलब इंपोर्ट टीडीएस करते समय कैंसिल करके नया कोड सेलेक्ट कर लो.
Sir, please mute everybody. Ashish ji.
Please, Jyoti, mute yourself. Yeah. Sir, go ahead.
Muted, sir. Sorry, point of view.
Thank you. So in that event, what is happening? This TDS, we can take the benefit, but this TDS will not be treated as income. Please understand. Normally, TDS is treated as income, but section 198 second proviso says that this TDS will not be treated as income. This year, they have made one amendment. They have brought an amendment via Finance Act 2020 with effect from 1st of July 2020. What is the amendment? If you have not filed return, if you have not filed your return for preceding 3 financial years, my financial year, relevant financial year is 1920, assessment year is 2021. So if I have not filed my return for assessment year 1920, 1819 and 1718, 1718, 1819, 1920, in that case, this limit of 1 crore will become 20 lakhs. Meaning thereby that my withdrawal beyond 20 lakhs will be subjected to TDS at the rate of 2%, and withdrawal beyond 1 crore will be subjected to TDS at the rate of 5%. So if I have not filed my income tax returns for preceding 3 previous years, for which due date of filing of return as well as revised return as well as belated return has expired, then in that event, for me, any withdrawal beyond 20 lakhs will be subjected to TDS at the rate of 2% and beyond 100 lakhs at 5%. Now there is a question, what will happen in case of belated ITR? Friends, as we all know, we can file belated ITRs with the approval of board, Central Board of Direct Taxes. Condonation of delay, section 119, subsection 2, clause B. Board has power to grant condonation of delay. So if delay is condoned by the board, I can file my belated return. What will happen in that case? What will happen in the case of new assessee? If I am a new assessee, naturally, I have not filed my any return of mine. So in case of new assessee, no issues. The moment you file your belated return, the moment you file your belated return with the approval of board, naturally you have filed your return for last 3 years. So in that event, your limit will become 1 crore. Department has introduced a utility for you people information. Let me share. Department had introduced utility on ITBA, Income Tax Business Application website, where banker will able to find out how much assessee has withdrawn and what will be the tax rate applicable. Another section, sir, 194O. very good amendment. This is regarding Flipkart, Snapdeal, Amazon. What is this, sir? This section will come into effect from 1st October 2020. 1st October 2020. So it is very important for you. It says that if you are participant on a website or digital platform operated by e-commerce operator. Let's take an example. Live example is always better. Suppose I am a trader of cosmetics. I am selling my cosmetics on Flipkart. So Flipkart is e-commerce operator which is managing the digital platform on which I am selling my cosmetics. So I am e-commerce participant. So there are two parties. One is e-commerce participant and the other is e-commerce operator. And there is third party also, buyer. So the party e-commerce operator means the person who is managing the digital platform where buyer and seller meet. Who is seller? Seller is known as e-commerce participant. Who is buyer? Any person who clicks on the site and purchases the quantity, purchases the commodity. I am selling cosmetics, so he purchases the cosmetics. It says that e-commerce operator, while paying or crediting e-commerce participant, will deduct TDS at the rate of 1%, whether for sale of goods or services or both. Suppose as a chartered accountant, you are registered on the website of Flipkart. As a chartered accountant, you are registered on the website of Flipkart and you are rendering services over there through buyers. If somebody approaches, then in that case, your TDS will be not 7.5%, it will be 1%. Please understand, because e-commerce operator will deduct TDS at the rate of 1%. There is a condition over here for individual and HUF. Please understand, for e-commerce participants who are individual or HUF, provided they furnish their PAN, permanent account number, or Aadhaar number. Suppose you do not have PAN, you can furnish your Aadhaar. Why? Because, sir, remember section 139 capital A, subsection 5E allows interchangeability of PAN with Aadhaar, as we all know. Section 139 capital A subsection 5E allows interchangeability of Aadhaar with PAN or PAN with Aadhaar. So if individual or HUF who is e-commerce participant means vendor, sir, seller, who is selling goods or services or both. If their sale does not exceed, sale of goods or service do not exceed 5 lakhs, and provided individual or HUF has furnished his PAN, no TDS deduction will be made. No TDS will be deducted up to a turnover of 5 lakhs only in the case of individual or HUF, meaning thereby for other categories of assessee, this exemption is not there. Please understand, for other categories of assessee, this exemption is not there, this 5 lakhs. Now, if you do not furnish PAN, TDS will be deducted at the rate of 5%. Let's take a situation. Flipkart or Snapdeal. Some advertiser is advertising his product. some advertiser is advertising on the portal and Flipkart or Snapdeal is receiving money for that. There is no sale, mind you. There is no e-commerce participant. Somebody is advertising his product. If somebody is advertising his product on the website and Flipkart e-commerce operator is getting money, that transaction is exempted out of ambit of 194(4). Next big change, real big change, sir, is in relation to section 206 capital C. Here they have introduced 4 subsections: 1G, 1H, 1I, 1J. They have, I repeat, here they have introduced in section 206 capital C, they have introduced 4 sections, 4 subsections rather: 1G, 1H, 1I, 1J. In 1G, they have introduced 5 provisos also. Now, what 1G says? 1G is having 2 parts, 2 clauses, I mean. Clause A. What is 206C1G says? Every person being an authorized dealer, I'm talking about clause A. Every person being an authorized dealer who receives an amount for remittance out of India from a buyer, being a person remitting such amount out of India under liberalized remittance regime of Reserve Bank of India. Let's understand this. Suppose your son is studying abroad in London University, take for example. So you have to pay the fees. So how do you pay the fee? You have to approach a foreign exchange dealer. You have to pay him the money and he will remit the money to London University. So here it says, in the provisos it has been mentioned, up to a limit of 7 lakhs, no TCS, no tax collected at source. Beyond 7 lakhs in any financial year, 5% TCS. Suppose you are remitting 40 lakhs in financial year 20, this financial year 2010 you are commencing. So you have remitted 40 lakhs. So what is the excess amount beyond 7 lakhs? 40 minus 7, 33 lakhs beyond 7 lakhs. So 33 lakhs into 5%, 1,65,000 extra you have to pay. That is 40 lakhs for remittance, 1,65,000 for TCS. Now it has also been provided that if you are remitting the money for education purposes by way of taking a loan from a bank, you have got it financed. Suppose this 40 lakhs has been, you have got it financed. Bank has given you loan. What should happen? If bank has financed these 40 lakhs to you, in that event your TCS will be 0.5% or 0.5%. 0.5%. So same 40 lakhs you are transferring, 40 minus 7, 33 lakhs, 5%, 0.5% means 16,500. So in the event of a loan taken for financing, then in that scenario, TCS will be 0.5%. This is clause A. Let's go for clause B. Every person being a seller of an overseas tour program package. Every person who is seller and selling overseas tour program package, who receives any amount from a buyer. Who is a buyer? buyer being the person who purchases such package. Then shall at the time of debiting amount payable by buyer, at the time of receipt of such amount by buyer, which collect from the buyer a sum equal to 5%. So suppose you are purchasing a overseas tour package program. You wish to visit Switzerland. Then you are purchasing a overseas tour program. 5 lakhs per person. You are 3 in the family. So 5 into 3, 15 lakhs. There is no exemption over here. 15 lakhs into 5%. You have to pay him 15 lakhs for tour program package plus 5%. Means 75,000 for TC. And mind you, it can be in foreign currency, it can be in Indian currency, come what may. Any amount which you are paying, for that you have to pay 5% extra. I hope this part is also clear. Next is 206C1H. This is for sale of goods to buyer. Seller turnover should exceed 10 crore. On receipt of payment except import and export. So this will not cover export of goods. Please understand. Limit is 50 lakhs. Means the seller is receiving beyond 50 lakhs from buyer. Seller is receiving. First of all, what is the first condition? Seller turnover should exceed 10 crore. He has sold to the buyer. Receipt from the buyer should also exceed 50 lakhs. Receipt from the buyer should also exceed 50 lakhs. So on amount received beyond 50 lakhs, TCS will be collected at the rate of 0.1%. On amount received beyond 50 lakhs from buyer, suppose you are receiving 1.5 crore. So beyond 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 1 crore into 0.1%. That is 10,000 rupees TCS collection. I hope this part is clear. I have illustrated. Let's take a case. A student has taken a loan on his own. He has moved abroad. He is not having taxable income in India, but he has also paid 0.1. He has also paid 0.5% TCS. So he has to file return to claim refund. Overseas tour program package, as I said, there will be no limit, any amount paid, any amount paid. What are the exceptions in case of 206C1H? 10 crore turnover beyond 10 crore. When the buyer is central government, state government, or any foreign commission, any agency of foreign government. Any agency of, that is, high commission, legation, commission, consulate, trade representation of a foreign state, local authority. So anything related to government and they are purchasing, they do not have to pay TCS. Friends, when Prime Minister talked about taxpayer charter, remember on 13th August, he said that taxpayer charter is being introduced. He also increased. Of course, there is no notification till now on it. The scope of a statement of financial transactions, which are, you remember, sir, financial transactions, SFT's statement of financial transactions, section 285BB, capital B, rule 114E. Remember, sir, Rule 140. Ashish ji, you are laughing. Ashish ji, Rule 114E. Unmute yourself, Ashish ji. Rule 114E talks about certain transactions. Rule 114E talks about certain transactions. Yes, Ashish ji. Here we have to file Form 61. याद है? Form
Yes.
61 में जमा करते हैं वो ITBA पोर्टल पे. You are treated as reporting entity. जैसे मान लो आपने एक प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी. You have purchased a property of 50 lakhs rupees and you do not want to report. There is no way out for you because any property purchased beyond 30 lakhs, registrar will report it to government.
Right.
Registrar is reporting entity. So registrar will report it under Form 61A on ITBA, on Income Tax Business Application Portal. So once he reports it, it will be appearing in your Form 26A. Where is the way out? Now they have expanded the scope. Look at the amounts. But till now, sir, there is no notification. Till now, there is no notification for this. They have said that any payment beyond 20,000 by you will be part of SFT. Means, if you visit a city and you have paid a hotel bill amounting to 20,000 or more, beyond 20,000, then that hotel has to file return. But there is no notification till now. Payment of property tax beyond 20,000. Payment of health insurance premium, this is very odd. Health insurance premium beyond 20,000, almost everybody pays. I'm not talking of certain classes of society, but now the insurance premiums health insurance premiums are very high. So here insurance company will be reporting entity. Insurance company have to upload how many persons have paid health insurance premium beyond 20,000. Payment of rent beyond 40,000, payment of life insurance premium beyond 50,000. LIC will be reporting entity saying that these are the persons you have paid. So in that event, it will appear in Form 26A. And once it appears in Form 26A, where is the way out? Payment of education fee, Maheshwari ji, beyond a lakh. Can you imagine? Beyond a lakh, 1 lakh rupees. You admit to a college, 6-month fee is 1 lakh rupees. So yearly fee will be 2 lakhs. So college will be reporting entity, which will upload details about you on the ITBA portal. So naturally, you are bound to file your return. So this way, they are increasing. They are trying to increase the compliance. It was also mentioned. Please mark my words. A person having bank transaction beyond 30 lakhs mandatorily file return. Following persons should file their return mandatorily. Till now, there is no notification. But once it has come, all professional businesses having turnover above 50 lakhs. Sir, if my turnover is beyond 50 lakhs, I'm already filing my return. How come? If my turnover is beyond 50 lakhs, 8% or 6%, 8%, if I'm following a 4480, 8% is 4 lakhs. So it is beyond my exemption limit until I am super senior citizen. Even if I am senior citizen, exemption limit is 3 lakhs. I have to file my return. So this is useless one, but I don't know. You know, government is always consisting of wise persons. We should not comment on their wiseness. Yes, one more big thing has happened on the horizon. They have introduced a taxpayer charter. Looks good. Looks good. But where is it in the statute? It has not been incorporated in the statute. 13th August Today is 5th September, 18 days over there, 5 days over here, 23 days now. And they have talked about that they will, taxpayer can approach. You just see what is income tax department to taxpayer. Looks like it is from heaven. Looks like either we are in heaven or there is a message from heaven. Both are very bad for our health. Because if you are in heaven, you are not in India. And if it is message of heaven, message from heaven, then also is bad. You just mark the words, sir, to provide fair, courteous, and reasonable treatment. Have you ever seen department giving fair, courteous, prompt, professional assistance? All these are big words. Treat taxpayer as honest. Look at the last line. Unless there is a reason to believe otherwise. Sir, where we are living. And still you are talking about, yes, we are doing to provide mechanism of appeal and review. Sir, we have seen mechanism of review and appeal. Where we approach commissioner appeal, he says, where is the envelope? Envelope of submission, I mean. You are taking me otherwise. This is webinar, sir. It's being recorded. To provide complete and accurate information. Have you ever find department giving you complete information? To provide timely decision. Since when they are going to provide? So look at these words, big words. Oh, I didn't talk about this, sorry. To respect privacy of taxpayer. Have you ever faced a search? If you have ever faced a search, you will understand that these 5 words carry no meaning. To respect privacy of taxpayer, to maintain confidentiality. So what is confidentiality? You have already entered into agreement with 10 other government departments where you will provide my data and they will provide my data to you. So where is the question of confidentiality? Hold its authorities accountable. This is real laughing stock. Your return income is 15 lakhs. I'll give you an example. I don't talk in thin air. Your return income is 15 lakhs. Assessed income is 2.9 crore. You approach first appeal, you get a relief of 60 lakhs. In second appeal, your return income and after giving affiliate order, your affiliate order affect return income and assessed income is 15 lakhs again. Do you hold your authorities accountable? You should hold your authorities accountable. They added it without any basis. So these are big words having no meaning, sir. Mechanism to lodge complaint. CPC is already there, sir. You file rectification on CPC, rejected. Rectification again rejected. 15 rectification, all 15 rejected without any basis. And you're talking about to provide mechanism to lodge complaint, to provide a fair and just system. Sir, proper man should man. There should be proper manning. There should be some person in CPC who can understand the law. You have engaged MBAs who are determining your tax queries without any training. For them, instruction is reject. So he is rejecting without understanding. So at least if you do not keep qualified persons. Now, what they expect from taxpayers? This is another one. Be honest and compliant. This is required from us. But as we know businesses, I won't comment on this. Be informed. how many businesses are informed, I won't comment on it. Keep accurate record. Sir, what is accurate record? I don't know definition of accurate record. If any one of you can tell me definition of accurate record. Know what the representative does on his behalf. I don't know. Respond in time. We always respond in time. They don't reply to it. Pay in time. We have to pay. Where is the option? Do you have any option not to pay in time? Suppose you are filing your return. Sir, you are filing your return. If you upload your return without paying taxes, 100% penalty is imposed on you under section 221. So where is the option? You have to pay. The statute is like this. No point in writing this. So my first part of my deliberation is over. And it has taken only 42 minutes. अभी 50 मिनट है सर, 50 मिनट है, 42 मिनट इसमें लगा. I hope this part is clear. मेरा यही है कि मेरा only strive I am doing is I am trying to make your doubts clear. करते करते बाद में आपका क्वेश्चन रहेगा तो I'll be really happy. Ordinance 2020 along with notification dated 24th of June 2020. Sir, आपको याद होगा, you must remember that by ordinance which was ordinance 2020, which was issued on 7th day of lockdown. Lockdown, as we all know, was introduced on 24th night. That the night of 24th, between 24th and 25th. So lockdown was effective from 25th March. And this came into being on 31st. So on 31st March 2020, Ordinance 2020 was introduced. Now what this ordinance says, sir, let me be very clear. Section 3 of the ordinance. Please concentrate, sir. Another 50 minutes. I'll leave you. I will not bore you much. Just I need your concentration for next 50 minutes. I'm trying. So by section 3 of the ordinance, which was in two parts, it was part A, part B. Clause A, clause small a of the ordinance says that any compliance which falls due between 20th March and 29th June, any compliance whether by a city or department. Any compliance which is due from 20th March 2020 till 29th June 2020, which is due either by SSC or by department, if cannot be completed within time, extended till 30th June. Let's take a live example. Assessment year 2021 return has to be filed by 31st March 21. Because now all returns must be filed within the assessment year. That date was extended till 30th June. 148 notice for assessment year 13-14. 148 notice for assessment year 13-14 must be issued by the department by 31st March 2020. Now it could have been issued till 30th June. Now by notification dated 24th of June, these dates were extended to 31st July. And what is the situation now? Now the situation is your returns could be filed for assessment year 1920. Return could be filed till 30th September. Life insurance premium and certain other payments could have been made till 31st July. could have been made till 31st July 2020. Any deduction which you are claiming under section 54 to 54 GB, any deduction which you are claiming for assessment year 2021 for section 54 to section 54 GB. What are these deductions, sir? Suppose you have sold a property, there is a capital gain. That amount you want to invest in a capital asset, self-occupied property. So you have to purchase that property within the financial year. Now that property can be purchased till 30th September. You wish to pay to promoter because either you have to purchase or construct. So if you pay to developer, it is taken as construction. Remember, sir, you have sold a property, there is a capital gain. Now that amount of capital gain has to be invested either in construction of a property or purchase of a property. If you are investing in construction of a property, means you are trying to pay to the builder, then it must be paid within the financial year. As I said, any due date falling between 20th March, by notification dated 24th of June 2020, this due date has been extended. Till when? Any due date falling between 20th March 2020 to 31st December 2020. I repeat, any due date, I'll repeat till you people understand. I have no problem. Any due date falling between 20th of March 2020 to 31st December 2020 has been extended till 31st March 21. Has been extended to 31st March 21 unless it is specified. What has been specified? As I told you, assessment year 1920 return can be filed till 30th September. Your TDS return for last quarter of 1920 can be filed till 31st July. In case of government, 15 July. In case of non-government, till 31st of July. But what about first quarter return? First quarter of 2021 financial year, that is June quarter, when you should file your return. Now this can be filed till 31st March 2020 because as I told you, any due date falling between 20th March 2020 to 31st December 2020 is extended to 31st March. So June quarter, due date of filing TDS return is 31st July 2020. It is being extended till 31st March. Second quarter means September quarter. September quarter due date of filing TDS or TCS return is 31st October. So it is extended till 31st March. But what about third quarter? What about third quarter? Third quarter means December quarter. December quarter due date is
31st
due date of filing 31st of January. That is not falling between till 31st December. What I told you. Any due date falling between 20th of March to 31st of December has been extended to 31st March. So this third quarter due date is 31st of Jan, which is not falling between 20th March and 31st December. So this is not extended. This remains at 31st of Jan. Okay, Ashish ji? Clear?
Yeah.
Simple है ना? ये तो complicated नहीं है. Complicated क्या है फिर complicated क्या है? इसमें कौन सा एक्ट कवर्ड है देख लीजिए. वेल्थ टैक्स, इनकम टैक्स, प्रोहिबिशन ऑफ बेनामी प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट, ब्लैक मनी एक्ट, विवाद से विश्वास एक्ट. विवाद से विश्वास एक्ट भी 31 दिसंबर हो गया. इसका मैंने आपको बता दिया 20th मार्च टू 31 दिसंबर. क्या एक्सटेंड नहीं हुआ पता है?
कंपनी जाएगी.
हाँ, कंपनी वाला तो बाद में रोएंगे. वो तो रोना.
Filing of returns.
सर आपका ऑडियो म्यूट हो गया मिस्टेक।
हाँ हाँ, वो गलती से हो गया होगा सर, कोई इशू नहीं। इसमें बोला कि असेसमेंट ईयर 2021 का रिटर्न आपको 30 नवंबर तक फाइल करना पड़ेगा, कोई इशू नहीं है। टैक्स ऑडिट ड्यू डेट असेसमेंट ईयर 2021 इज 31 अक्टूबर। टैक्स पेमेंट सर एक्सटेंड नहीं किया। मान लीजिए आपने जून का टीडीएस डिडक्ट किया, जून का टीडीएस डिडक्ट किया, कब ड्यू डेट है भैया? 7 जुलाई है। यदि आप 7 जुलाई को पेमेंट नहीं करते हो 1.5% पर मंथ लगेगा। एक और अच्छा चीज बताता हूं, सिंपल। आपका एडवांस टैक्स फर्स्ट क्वार्टर 15 जून था, एवरीबॉडी नोज। एडवांस टैक्स फर्स्ट क्वार्टर वाज 15 जून। It was not extended. If it was paid by 30th June, 0.75% interest था। Because क्या हो गया? Any delay beyond due date, whether for a month or for a part of a month, once it is paid beyond 30th June, interest rate will be 1.5% per month. Tax payment, tax any levy that has not been extended, sir. Tax payment was not extended, only compliance was extended. Please understand. No tax payment was extended, only date of compliance were extended. जो टैक्स पेमेंट था, एक्सटेंशन था, वो विदिन 30th जून था। दैट इज एनी टैक्स पेमेंट due between 20th March and 29th June, if paid by 30th June, in that scenario, interest will be not 1.5% per month, interest will be 0.75% per month. वो भी beyond 30th June तो दिया ही नहीं extension. Means any due date for tax payment falling beyond 30th June, no extension has been granted at all, because ये था सेक्शन 3 क्लॉज बी में। आपका ऑर्डिनेंस 2020 देखिएगा, मैंने आपको मटेरियल माहेश्वरी जी को भेजा था, उन्होंने आपको मेल भी किया होगा। ऑर्डिनेंस 2020 में सेक्शन 3 क्लॉज बी, ड्यू डेट ऑफ पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्सेस, दिस नोटिफिकेशन ऑफ 24th June has been issued in under section 3 clause A. ये जो नोटिफिकेशन 24th जून वाला है, entire notification has been issued under section 3 clause A of ordinance. इसमें क्लॉज बी का बात ही नहीं है। मतलब टैक्स पेमेंट ड्यू डेट हैज नॉट बीन एक्सटेंडेड बियॉन्ड 30th जून। प्लीज रिमेंबर। ये क्लियर हो गया आशीष जी? आगे
Yes,
बढ़े।
sir.
ये वाला मैंने आपको बता दिया था। मैं नॉर्मली आपको बता देता हूँ जितना समझ में आता है, मुझे भी नहीं समझ में आता है तो मैं क्या करूँ, फिर बता नहीं पाऊंगा। अच्छा, पीएम केयर्स फंड बड़ा डिस्प्यूट में था, लोग डिस्प्यूट बना रहे थे, डिस्प्यूट तो था नहीं। पीएम केयर्स फंड, इनकम ऑफ पीएम केयर्स फंड इज एग्जेम्प्ट अंडर 1023C, कोई डाउट नहीं है। और एनी डिडक्शन टू पीएम केयर्स फंड, एनी डिडक्शन टू पीएम केयर्स फंड इज एग्जेम्प्ट अंडर 80G सबसेक्शन 2 क्लॉज A सब क्लॉज 3। तो उसका इनकम भी एग्जेम्प्ट और डिडक्शन भी एग्जेम्प्ट, दोनों 100% एग्जेम्प्ट। फिर एक निर्मला जी आई, बोली कि भैया आपको हम कुछ बेनिफिट देंगे। क्या बेनिफिट देंगे? बोले कि आपको हम लो रेट ऑफ टीडीएस अलाउ करेंगे, लो रेट ऑफ टीडीएस और टीसीएस अलाउ करेंगे। मतलब आपका यदि टैक्स रेट टीडीएस रेट 10% है, वो 7.5% हो जाएगा। आपका यदि टीडीएस रेट 5% है तो 3.75% हो जाएगा। बहुत अच्छी बात। But this was not for salaried employees. Please understand. बिकॉज सैलरीड एम्प्लॉइज का कोई टीडीएस रेट नहीं होता है. एंड दिस वाज ओनली एप्लीकेबल फॉर रेसिडेंट. नॉन रेसिडेंट का इसमें कोई बेनिफिट नहीं है, बिकॉज नॉन रेसिडेंट मीन्स रेसिडेंट ऑफ अनदर कंट्री. उसको हम क्यों बेनिफिट देंगे भाई? इज इट ओके? नॉन रेसिडेंट को कोई बेनिफिट नहीं दिया, ओनली रेसिडेंट को दिया और नॉन सैलरीड को दिया. अब एक चार्ट है देखिए, 206(1)(h) में उन्होंने दे रोट इट दैट 0.1 विल बिकम 0.75. उनको पता नहीं है कि 0.75 इज हायर देन 0.1. देखिएगा जो प्रेस रिलीज आया था. ब्यूरोक्रेट्स ना, ब्यूरोक्रेट मीन्स पहली क्वालिटी क्या होती है? इनसेंसिटिव होगा. दूसरा क्वालिटी क्या होता है? इडियट होगा. बिकॉज वो ट्यूबलाइट एक बार जली थी, वो पास कर गया डब्ल्यू का, वो अपना यूपीएससी पास कर गया. उसके बाद तो ट्यूबलाइट में कोई चेंज नहीं हुआ ना. चोक खराब हो गया, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सारा खराब हो गया, तो इनसेंसिटिव होते हैं, तो वो एक्चुअली 0.075 होगा, तब ना 25% रिड्यूस. विदाउट पैन लेकिन 20% की है सर, याद रखना. विदाउट पैन में 20% हैज नॉट बिकम 15%. सैलरी में कोई रेट चेंज नहीं हुआ. प्री मैच्योर विड्रॉल फ्रॉम पीएफ में कोई रेट चेंज नहीं हुआ. लॉटरी में, हॉर्स रेस में कोई रेट चेंज नहीं हुआ. 194N कैश विड्रॉल में कोई रेट चेंज नहीं हुआ. 206(1)(g) में कोई रेट चेंज नहीं हुआ. ये देखिए जल्दी हो गया. अब चलते हैं सर की चेंजेस इन आईटीआर फॉर्म. सर 508 means I have got around 32 minutes. Very lucky. ये जल्दी हुआ, 8-8-16 मिनट में मैंने कर दिया. तो सर अब मेरे पास 32 मिनट है. चलिए एक बार लेट मी गिव ए ऑनेस्ट ट्राई whatever provisions I can cover. I hope till now I am okay with audience.
Yes, sir.
I am moving in accordance with ordinance wishes. क्या ज्योति जी ठीक है? तो
ठीक है, एकदम ठीक है सर.
यस सर, यस सर.
ठीक है ना? पास अभी तक पास हूँ, फेल नहीं किया.
नहीं सर, कहाँ फेल करेंगे आप?
सर तो की चेंजेस नहीं, रिजल्ट अच्छा नहीं था ना कभी, इसलिए डर लगता है. की चेंजेस इन आईटीआर फॉर्म. सर यहाँ देखिए, अब ये चेंजेस क्या है? पहले तो देखिए एक सिंपलिस्टिक व्यू दीजिए, एक सिंपलेटॉन का व्यू दीजिए, मैंने विदाउट अप्लाइंग योर माइंड. पहले ये सोचिए कि व्हाट इज आईटीआर 1. Sir, ITR 1 can only be filed by a resident and अच्छा इसमें क्या क्या नहीं होगा? Who cannot file ITR 1? Let's be clear on this. अच्छा, whoever cannot file ITR 1, if they do not have any business income, they can file. I cannot file ITR 1. Please listen, so please concentrate for another 30 minutes. ज्यादा नहीं है, अब ज्यादा बोर का टाइम नहीं है. Number 1, capital gain income नहीं होना चाहिए. There should not be any capital gain income. If you have capital gain income, you cannot file ITR 1. If you have agricultural income beyond 5,000, you cannot file ITR 1. If your total income exceeds 50 lakhs, you cannot file ITR 1. If you are assessable for any other person income, if you are assessable for any other person income, you cannot file ITR 1. If your dividend income is beyond 10 lakhs, you cannot file ITR 1. If you have income under section 115 BBE, याद है BBE? 115 BBE याद है आशीष जी? देखो
यस सर, यस सर.
तीनों टर्म डेंजरस है.
PMGK वाली
याद है आपको? बीबी तो समझ में आती है, और अस्ट वाइल उसके बाद लिखा हुआ है, तब ये बीबीई होता है. मतलब बीबी और अस्टवाइल तीन डेंजरस हो गया प्रपोजिशन। ये है सेक्शन 68, 69, 69 ABC।
Undisclosed.
उसमें क्या होता है, आपका टैक्स रेट इज 78%। डेंजरस है ना, टैक्स रेट 78% है। यदि आपने डिस्क्लोज किया, यदि आईटीओ पकड़ता है तो 84%, और यदि सर्च में पकड़ में आता है तो 78% पर 60%, कितना परसेंट हो गया?
138.
138, मतलब 100 रुपये का कमाई 138 रुपया टैक्स, तो भगवान का नाम लो। अब 38 रुपया भगवान का नाम लेके ही आएगा। देखिए जितने जो हरि भक्त हैं जो टीवी पे आते हैं, जो बोलते हैं कि पैसा माया है, वो एक लेक्चर देने के लिए 5 लाख लेते हैं। तो ये 115 बीबी। तो ये हुआ ITR 1। ITR 2 मैंने आपको कहा, यदि ROR फाइल कर सकता है तो ITR 2 कौन कौन फाइल करेगा सर? नॉन रेसिडेंट भी फाइल करेगा, रेसिडेंट बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरली रेसिडेंट भी फाइल करेगा। ये हो गया। ITR 3 इंडिविजुअल HUF बिजनेस के लिए। तो इसमें जितना क्वालिफिकेशन था ITR 1 में कि नहीं कर सकता, वो सारा 2 और 3 करेगा। 4 है प्रेजम्पटिव। प्रेजम्पटिव किसके लिए भैया, याद किया जाए एक बार, इंडिविजुअल HUF फॉर्म एक्सक्लूडिंग LLP। आई रिपीट, इंडिविजुअल HUF फॉर्म एक्सक्लूडिंग AAP LLP। ITR 5 यहाँ लिखा हुआ है अदर देन इंडिविजुअल HUF कंपनी ITR 7। अब इसको तोड़ा जाए, ITR 5 यहाँ क्या लिखा हुआ है, अदर देन इंडिविजुअल HUF कंपनी एंड ITR 7, मतलब असेसी फाइलिंग ITR 7। अब आइए, ITR 5 कैन बी फाइल्ड बाय ए पार्टनरशिप फॉर्म। ITR 5 कैन बी फाइल्ड बाय LLP। ITR 5 can be filed by AOP, Association of Persons. ITR 5 can be filed by body of individuals. ITR 5 can be filed by artificial judicial person, cooperative society. ITR 5 can be filed by a trust not eligible to file ITR 7. आपने ट्रस्ट बनाया लेकिन उसका रजिस्ट्रेशन 12A में या 12AA में और अंडर 12AB you have not registered it. So you cannot file ITR 7, you have to file ITR 5. Insolvent person, ITR 5. Representative assessee, ITR 5. ITR 6, companies not filing ITR 7. ITR 7 एक charitable exempt। ये तो क्लियर हो गया, फॉर्म क्लियर है। आगे बढ़ते हैं सर। एक तो ये है, देखिए जनरल अमेंडमेंट इन ITR फॉर्म, ITR 1 to 7 सब में अमेंडमेंट आया। क्या अमेंडमेंट है सर? ये अमेंडमेंट बोलता है कि ITR फाइल्ड इन रिस्पॉन्स टू नोटिसेस अंडर सेक्शन 139(9), याद है व्हाट इज 139(9)? डिफेक्टिव रिटर्न नोटिस। 142(1), 148, 153A, 153, 119(2) भी क्या है? कंडोनेशन ऑफ डिले वाला। If you have not filed your return within time, you can ask CBDT, you can ask the board for condonation of delay, and board, if feels fit, can grant you condonation of delay under section 119(2)B. आप जब इसको you have, when you file your return in response to 139(9), 142(1), 148, 153A, 153C, 119(2)B, you have to quote document identification number along with date of document. Please understand, document identification number should be quoted. How CBDT has been authorized? CBDT has issued a circular last year, circular number 19, under which section? 119. But it is not part of the statute. Please understand. If you remember, sir, Mr. Singh might be remembering, they had a section known as 282 capital B. It was introduced by Finance Act 2009 and it was deleted from the statute book by Finance Act 2011. That section 282 capital B, 282B had provision for document identification number. So we should put one memorandum before CBDT, before Ministry of Finance, saying that section 282 capital B should be brought back in the statute to give it a statutory backing. Otherwise, this is a mere notification or circular issued under section 119, which is of no use. It should have a statutory backing. The thing I talked about, 5% of cash receipts should be less than 5% of total receipt. Cash payment should be less than 5% of total payment. Then your turnover limit will be 5 crore. Then table for that. It is there in audit information ITR 356. Under section 139, capital A, subsection 5E, White Finance Act 2019, White Finance Act 2019, they introduced a new subsection 5E in section 139 capital A. What it said? It said that if a person has not been allotted a permanent account number, he can quote his Aadhaar number, meaning thereby interchangeability of PAN with Aadhaar or vice versa. PAN can be interchanged for Aadhaar. You do not have PAN, no issues. You quote your Aadhaar number. And mind you, once you have Aadhaar, entire data of yours is with the government of India. PAN will be allotted in due course. They have made that provision. So interchangeability in these cases, if you do not have PAN, you can quote your Aadhaar. You remember, friends, there is a section known as 139, subsection 1. What is the return? Section 139, subsection 1? It talks about return of income. Who will file return of income? Every assessee, if it's a company or firm. That is clause A. And clause B says any or clause B says every person other than a company or firm. And in explanation 2 to section 139(1), they have given due date. Remember, for company, firm and tax audit assessees, due date is normally 31st October. This year it is 30th November. Right, sir? Or 30th, this year the due date is 30th November and tax audit due date is 31st October. But for company and firm, they have always have to file their return. Any company has to file its return, whether it has incurred loss or profit. If it wants to carry forward the loss, it has to file a return. But in case of any assessee other than company or firm, in case of assessee other than company or firm, it may not file its return if it does not have its income higher than maximum amount not chargeable to tax. Suppose basic exemption limit is 2.5 lakh. You are individual. Your income is 2 lakh. Your total income is 2 lakh. You are not supposed to file your return. So any assessee other than company or firm may not file its return if its income does not exceed maximum amount not chargeable to tax. But in certain cases, they have amended, they have given provisos. So White Finance Act 2018, another proviso has been added. What it says, sir? If you have deposited more than 1 crore in your current account, if you have deposited more than 1 crore in your current account, or you have incurred more than 2 lakhs rupees on foreign travel, or you have incurred more than 1 lakh rupees on electricity, even if your income does not exceed maximum amount not chargeable to tax, Under 7th proviso to section 139 subsection 1 clause B, I repeat, under 7th proviso to section 139 subsection 1 clause B, even if your income does not exceed maximum amount not chargeable to tax and you fulfill any one of these conditions. What are the conditions? Condition number 1, you have deposited more than a crore in current account. I'm not saying cash, check, and RTGS, NEFT. I'm not saying anything. If total receipt in your current account, if total receipt in your current account is more than a crore, or you have incurred 2 lakhs on foreign travel either on your own or any other person. It's not necessarily in foreign exchange. It can be in INR also. You have purchased air tickets costing 2.1 lakh. Even if your income does not exceed 2 lakhs rupees, you have to file your return. So they have amended the forms. This is the amendment. In all forms you will find. Are you filing return of income under 7th proviso to 139 but otherwise not? And mind you, you have to mention the amount, how much amount you have deposited, how much expenditure on foreign country travel you have incurred, how much, and mind you, this electricity expenditure can be domestic also. It's not necessarily for business, because business word is not used. They have not said commercial use of electricity. They have used the word consumption of electricity. I hope I am clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Suppose you are director in a company or you are holding unlisted equity shares in a company. So they ask for type of company, whether your company is domestic company or foreign company. You have to mention whether you are director in a domestic company or foreign company. Whether you are director or you are holding unlisted equity shares, type of company has to be given. This is the form. This part is clear. I am moving. In case of salary, income from salary, category of employees, nature of employment. Earlier it was government employees, now it is central and state government, bifurcated into 2. Earlier it was others. Others have been classified into 2, others and not applicable. Let me give an example. If you are filing return of income under 7th proviso to section 139(1)(b), you will tick others. If you are earning family pension, you will tick not applicable. If you are filing your return of income under 7th proviso to section 139 subsection 1 clause B, you will tick others. If you are having family pension, you will tick not applicable. I am moving, sir. Under house property, there were 2 categories, let out and deemed to be let out. But as we all know, there should be 3 types of houses: let out, deemed to be let out, and self-occupied. Rationality has been prevailing now. Government is always irrational. They take time to be rational, so they have become rational. Another big change, sir, Schedule 112A. Remember, sir, Section 112A was brought into statute book. Which year? In the year 2018 by Bide Finance Bill 2018. What this section talks about? This section talks about that any long-term capital gain on sale of equity shares in a company or unit of a equity-oriented mutual fund or unit of a business trust on which STT has been paid, on which security transaction tax has been paid, will be taxable provided your long-term capital gain exceed 1 lakh rupees. Meaning thereby that long-term capital gain earned up to lakh of rupees will be exempt So long-term capital gain beyond a lakh of rupees will be taxable at the rate of 10%. There is no qualms on that. Problem is here. Look at this chart. Look at this chart. You look at it. It is, you have to submit it company-wise. It was introduced last year. Hue and cry was raised that how do you submit company-wise? Now you have to submit. No way out, because they have changed the form. For each company-wise, you have to calculate, and you have to you see fair market value as on 31st of Jan. Why this has been there? This is there because it is known as grandfathering. What is grandfathering, sir? You must be knowing, friends, that any long-term capital gain earned up to 31st of Jan 2018 was exempt. Earlier, long-term capital gain earned on sale of equity shares or units of mutual fund or units of business trust was exempt. White Finance Bill 2018, which was introduced on 1st of February 2018, I may be excused. They brought a section 112A, which prescribed that long-term capital gain will be taxable at the rate of 10%, right? So once this was made taxable, any long-term capital gain earned up to that date must be exempt. Because long-term capital gain was exempt up to 31st of Jan 2018, it is being made taxable with effect from by the Finance Act amendment. So here cost was escalated. How you escalate the cost? Cost price or fair market value on 31st of Jan, whichever is higher, will be treated as cost of escalation, cost of acquisition. Let me give one example. Suppose cost of one equity share purchased by you was 100 lakh. Market value as on 31st of Jan was 160 rupees. So cost price per share or market price per share, whichever is higher. Suppose 160 is higher. So now the cost of acquisition for you will be 160 rupees. So what happens? Once cost is escalated from 100 to 160, naturally 60 rupees is exempted for you. This is known as grandfathering. Now there is a question which is normally asked from me. What will happen if I have purchased in March 2008? What if I have purchased in March 2018 or April 2018? What should I mention over here? You don't have to mention anything, sir. What is the need of mentioning? This was required because any gain, any long-term capital gain earned up to this date should be exempt. Since you have acquired your share after this date, no question of getting any exemption benefit. I hope I am clear on this.
Clear, sir.
That was for resident, 115 AD is for non-resident. That's the only change. 112A was for resident, 112.15 AD is for non-resident. Same one, same table. Another one, friends, another amendment. White Finance Act 2018. Individual, HUF, AOP, BOI. Surcharge rates were enhanced. I repeat, earlier there were only two surcharges, 10% and 15%. Remember, any income, total income beyond 50 lakhs, up to 1 crore, surcharge was 10%. And beyond 1 crore, any income was subjected to 15% surcharge. By Finance Act 2019, they revised the surcharge rates into 4 slabs. Income beyond 50 lakhs to 1 crore, 10% surcharge. Beyond 1 crore to 2 crore, 15%, beyond 2 crore up to 5%, 25%, beyond 5 crore, 37%. For whom? Individual, HUF, AOP, BOI. Friends, you must be knowing that I'm only reiterating, or rather reiterating. All of this fact is known to you because you also go through Act. I also go through Act. Only it's a matter of repetition. You must be knowing that all these FIIs, financial, these foreign institutional investors, they also operate in the status of AOP or BOI. All these FIIs are in the status of AOP or BOI. So any long-term capital gain or short-term capital gain earned by those organizations would have been taxable at a surcharge of 10%, 15%, 25%, and 37%. So they said that, so Finance Act was amended. When Act was passed, it was amended. They said that enhanced surcharge rate of 25% and 37%. I repeat, they said that enhanced surcharge rate of 25% and 37% will not apply on short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain. Meaning thereby, on short-term capital gain and long-term capital gain for individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, it will be only 10% and 15%. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So I move ahead, sir,
Yes,
with
sir.
your due permission. मैसूरी जी अलाउ है तो आगे बढ़ जाए
आगे
सर।
में
मैसूरी जी सोच रहे थे क्या बोल रहा हूं मैं। सर ये तीसरा और भी चेंज है, थोड़ा थोड़ा मैं जल्दी करूंगा। देखें बेटा टाइम अभी 7 मिनट है सर, 7-8 मिनट है। क्वेश्चन तो ज्यादा होगा नहीं आप लोगों का। आशीष जी ज्यादा क्वेश्चन होगा क्या?
नहीं होना चाहिए सर।
नहीं होना तो नहीं चाहिए। आप लोग ऐसा ब्रिलियंट आदमी है, मैं तो मान लो समझा पा रहा हूँ, नहीं समझा पा रहा हूँ, आप लोग तो समझ ही ले रहे। सर एक बात देखिए, ये जो ऑटो इंडस्ट्री था रिसेशन में था, आपने देखा होगा। और सिंस ऑटो इंडस्ट्री वाज इन रिसेशन, गवर्नमेंट थॉट that if I provide additional depreciation at the rate of 15% for purchases between 23rd of August and 31st of March 2020, क्या any purchase of motor vehicles, whether for your own use or for hire, between 23rd of August 2018 till 31st of March 2020, depreciation of 15% was allowed. तो इसको देखा जाए, इसका इफेक्ट क्या हुआ? Look at this chart. Motor cars other than those in the business of running them or hire, 15% था, वो 30% हो गया। 15% is becoming 30, and if you are running them on hire, 30% became 45%. This is one major change, sir. याद होगा आपको, last year they said that depreciation rate should not be beyond 40%. ये तो exceed हो गया sir, 45% हो गया। So here this is an increment, depreciation increment, additional depreciation, just to give boost to auto industry. पता नहीं auto industry पे कुछ impact तो दिखा नहीं। हाँ जी, ये ठीक है, नॉर्मल है। इसमें ये वाला बीच वाला देखिए, 0.11 ये तो आपको पता है सर, एनी इंटरेस्ट, सैलरी, बोनस, कमीशन और रेमुनरेशन पेड बाय एओपी टू इट्स मेंबर इज डिसअलाउड, आपको पता है। तो उसका प्रोविजन नहीं था आपका अदर इंफॉर्मेशन में, नाउ दे हैव ब्रॉट इट। ये 43B वाला है 11DA। व्हाट इज 43B सर? 43B you must be knowing. Any statutory payment will be allowed only on payment basis. That's the thing. 43B says so, that payment must be made either within the financial year or within due date of filing of return of income. But if you have taken a loan from systematically important NBFC or deposit taking NBFC, interest was not disallowed to you if you do not pay. So they amended the act. They amended the act saying that you will get deduction for interest paid to NBFC, not on interest payable to NBFC. If you have taken a loan from deposit taking, and there are lot of varieties of NBFC. Only two types of NBFCs are covered. One is deposit taking NBFC, other one is systematically important NBFC. Interest payable to these will be allowed as deduction only on payment basis. ये clear है? इसमें कोई doubt नहीं है. लाइफ इंश्योरेंस बिजनेस वाला ये नॉर्मल है, इस पे देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन्वेस्टिंग आवर प्रेशियस टाइम. ये देखिए जो इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी और अल्टरनेट इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड्स होते हैं, आपके यहाँ भी होते होंगे, ये बहुत कम लोग काम करते हैं इसके ऊपर, तो मैं इसके ऊपर डिस्कशन नहीं करता हूँ. यदि किसी का स्पेसिफिक क्वेरी होगा, आई विल बी मोर देन विलिंग. नाउ दिस इज रिगार्डिंग डिटेल्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट. सर क्या है, जैसे आपने लाइफ इंश्योरेंस, इफ यू आर पेइंग लाइफ इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम और यू आर मेकिंग पेमेंट इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ परचेज ऑफ हाउस प्रॉपर्टी और यू आर मेकिंग अमाउंट ऑफ पेमेंट विथ बैंक इन कैपिटल गेन स्कीम, और तो उसके लिए आपको बेनिफिट होगा. सो दिस वाज द चार्ज. If you have paid after financial year, as I was saying, sir, that any life insurance premium you must pay within the financial year in order to claim the benefit in the relevant assessment year. Here you could have paid between 1st of April to 31st of July. Do you think it is mandatory to claim in same assessment year? No, sir. It's not mandatory. You can claim in the next year. If you have paid between 1st of April and 31st July, it may not be that you have to claim it in 2021. You can claim it in next financial year 21-22. क्या issue है? So I have given a note. It is not mandatory but optional to claim it. This benefit was given because pandemic situation, nobody had money. But सब 20 मार्च तो सबके पास पैसा था, अचानक पैसा कहाँ चला गया? Where all on a sudden entire money gone? Nowhere it has gone, sir. People are taking precautions. This is 10AA. Even if you commence production by 30th September, you can get the benefit. याद है, financial year में production should commence, but even if you are commencing production by 30th September 2020, you can get the benefit of SEZ. Long-term capital gain, same thing. It's like as I told you, you can pay to your promoter, you can open a capital gain account scheme with SBI by 30th September. Then also it will be treated as compliant. This is okay. Chapter 6 ATD, I don't think I need to explain this because ATD health insurance premium सबको मेरे से अच्छा पता है. ये वाला normal है. I'm not emphasizing on this. Yes, last year ordinance 2019 was brought in. याद है sir? Ordinance 2019 was brought in. While ordinance 2019 they brought two sections, 115 BAA and 115 BAB. While BAA they said that tax rate will be 22%, surcharge will be 10%, and while 115 BAC they said that if you incorporate a company on and from 1st October, then in that event your tax rate will be 15%, basic tax rate will be 15%, surcharge will be 10%, and cess will be 4%. BAA, you have to remember one thing, that you will not get carry forward benefit of losses. So if you are opting for BAA 22%, then you should weigh whether you have carry forward loss, whether you have MAT credit. Then you should not opt for it. till all those are exhausted by you. Suppose you have huge losses, so that loss benefit should be taken, and after that BAA should be exercised. But in case of a new company, when you are opting for BAB by filling form 10 ID, 15%, so you cannot have any loss. You cannot, because the new company you have incorporated, you cannot give any loss benefit over here. Tax rate is 17%, unheard of in Indian history. 17% tax rate in India, where tax rate in 85, 86 used to be 96%, if you remember those days. Even authorized person can sign ITR 6. He may not be director, but he can sign. ITR 7, you know, they have brought a change that every other organization, every trust, every registered society has to file, has to come in queue, has to file afresh. They have to file their application for registration. And earlier, if you remember, it was registration in perpetuality. Once you get registration, it was valid forever. Now, no more. Your registration will be valid only for 5 years. A new date is from 1st of October, you must apply, and the process will end by 31st of December. But since due date is 30th November this year till now, so you may not comply with this by due date, because you are saying that you can apply from 1st October till 31st December. And due date of filing of return is 30th November. So I may not apply. I can apply after 30th November. So what they said, whether you have applied for registration, section under which you have applied, that is section 11, or take 1023C, or 80G, or 35, date on which application for registration has been made, section of which application you have, because now you cannot have, earlier you had this option that you can register on the 12A, 12AA and 1023C. Now you cannot have both registration. You can register yourself either under 12AA or 1023C. You cannot have registration under both the sections. So this is the form I was talking about. This is another words provision, 115 TD. This is regarding a trust which registration of the trust has been cancelled. If registration of a trust is cancelled by commissioner, or trust is dissolved, or trust is merged in a organization which does not have similar objects, then on accreted income, what is accreted income? Accreted income means gross value of asset, gross market value of asset of the trust minus liability will be treated as accreted income. On accreted income of trust, the trust has to pay tax at maximum marginal rate. Now, what is maximum marginal rate, sir? 30% plus 37% plus 4%. अभी मैक्सिमम मार्जिन रेट क्या है? यूपी का क्या है बताइए? 30% है. सरचार्ज हाईएस्ट कितना है? 37% है. तो 30% प्लस 37% प्लस 4%, 42% हो जाएगा सर. सर others are insignificant changes. हाँ, इसमें refund, if for a non-resident, if they wanted refund, they had to have some account in India. Now the government says you may not have any bank account in India. Even your foreign account, your refund will be credited in your foreign account, and these details you have to furnish. For resident also, earlier they used to ask for one bank account for refund. Now you can see, you can claim as many accounts as possible for refund. You can see, you can depict 3 accounts. You can disclose 3 bank accounts. You can say that you can credit my refund in any one of these 3 accounts. So no issues, sir. Look at this form. ये मेरा लास्ट होगा आज का. अब आपका टाइम भी ओवर हो रहा है. 46 हो गया. ये लास्ट वाला है सर. 1 मिनट लूंगा, इसके बाद ऑडियंस के लिए छोड़ दूंगा. ऑर्गेनाइजर्स के हाथ में चला जाऊंगा मैं. सर ये इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न वेरिफिकेशन फॉर्म, इट लुक्स लाइक फ्रेंच और लैटिन. ऐसा हम लोग कभी देखे नहीं. देखे थे? क्यों हुआ बताइए तो. लेट मी ब्रीफ यू रिगार्डिंग. क्या होता था, if you remember days prior to assessment year 2006-7, as per section 140, all deposits, all return deposited at the counters of income tax department has to be signed by assessee. साइन होता था तब जमा होता था. यदि assessee आपका साइन नहीं किया हो तो जमा लेते थे क्या? नहीं लेते थे. तो आप खुद साइन कर देते थे कि भाई जमा तो ले ले. Now, when electronic filing happened, what happened, sir? You used to upload on the e-filing website, and without digital signature, assuming, because in all cases DSC is not required. So you used to upload in without digital signature, and neither you used to send that to Bangalore, or nor you used to do electronic verification. Or the form which you have acknowledgement which was generated, we used to use it everywhere. याद है? जो acknowledgement आया हम सब जगह देते थे साइन करके कि देखिए साहब हमने दे दिया. Now they have said unless your form is verified. What is the way of verification? If you file it digitally, no problem. It is verified automatically. If it is not digitally uploaded, then either electronic verification or you sign the form and send it to Bangalore, which will process it. So unless and until it is processed by Bangalore or there is electronic verification, this form will be generated. Now you will not have income tax return acknowledgement form. You will have this form if you have not done electronic verification or you have not submitted it to Bangalore for further processing. Sign करने के बाद. Once you electronically verify it, or either you electronically verify it or you send it to Bangalore after signing, that is subscribing this form, and send it to Bangalore, which they accept and process. After that, you will get income tax return acknowledgement form. That's all. I have missed 2-3 points only. Thanks a lot for giving me a patient hearing. I'm really indebted, sir. You gave me an opportunity of interaction. I'm really indebted to all of you. You gave me a very patient hearing. Now the stage is all set for organizers. You can bombard me with your questions and I'll be really willing and happily answering your questions. You can unmute all participants so that we can chat for next 15 minutes. आशीष जी सबको अनम्यूट कर दो.
Thank you.
बोलेंगे मजा आ जाएगा.
Thank you, sir, for your beautiful, for your lovely presentation. And this will benefit us a lot. Now the stage is set. So now, without talking much, I'll hand over the proceedings to conduct the question and answer session. Kindly, if there are any questions in the chat, just proceed further. Rohit?
Yes, sir.
Rohit, kindly proceed further if there are any questions in the chat.
Yes, sir.
ওইটা শুকনো হয়েছে তিরপলটা ওটা কি চাপা দিই চাপা দিই সিমেন্ট করে চাপা দিই
बस अनम्यूट कर दीजिए.
The first question of the day.
Yeah.
Equity-oriented funds are eligible for concessional rate of tax, that is 111A or 112A respectively. Please elucidate the liquid funds which are chargeable at a regular rate applicable for LTCG or STCG. Also, the benefit of
10%, sir. It's LTCG, STD, 10%, 15%. Mr. V.K. Subramani, very good friend of mine from Bengaluru. Sorry, from Tamil Nadu. LTC is taxable at 10% beyond 1 lakh and STC is taxable at 15%. Yes. Haji.
shall I proceed?
Bima for
Yeah,
ideas.
proceed further. Proceed further.
नहीं आ रहा है सर. Time लगेगा सर. Give them some time. Pawan जी, Pawan Agrawal जी from Jamshedpur. ITR 6 notify नहीं हुआ. Next question. For a proprietor turnover of 140 lakhs and his aggregate receipt by cash is 3%. Is he hit by 44 AD or can he claim relief by virtue of proviso to section? Sir, you whatever benefit you wish to claim, because if you want to take 44 AD benefit, you have to offer 8%. You can go for tax audit because your turnover limit is 5 crore. Your turnover limit is 5 crore. So you may not have any tax audit and you can enjoy the benefit. Pawan Agrawal ji, we have filed विवाद से विश्वास withdraw करना चाहते हो?
Sir,
You have to sir department से पूछना पड़ेगा आपको. उनके हाथ में चले गए आप. But I'll tell you, you can write a simple letter to
Sir,
your
I think,
principal committee.
sir, I think don't pay the tax within 15 days. It will be treated as not filed anytime.
नहीं उसमें वो लोग का हाथ में है ना सर. They are waiting for some revision.
No, sir. Says within 15 days, it is treated as it has never been filed. If I am correct.
हो गया ना, फॉर्म 3 इशू कर देगा ना, कर दिया ना सर. यहाँ तो कुछ भी नहीं किया उन्होंने.
हाँ हाँ.
तो मैं बोल रहा
यहाँ कुछ किया नहीं सर.
वो तो सबसे अच्छा है. वो तो अच्छा है लेकिन
अभी
वहाँ
तक
का
कुछ किया नहीं है सर.
हाँ जी. यस सर.
फॉर्म
समटाइम्स. हाँ जी पवन जी बोलिए.
जी सर, मान लीजिए फॉर्म 1 फाइल किया हूँ अभी
हाँ
और फॉर्म 3 अभी फाइल नहीं किया है, इशू नहीं किया है.
वो
और
डिपार्टमेंट
मान लीजिए सीआईटी अपील में सर मेरा ऑर्डर में हो जाता है तब.
आपका साउंड ब्रेक हो रहा है. आप मेल कर दो. आप बंद करो. आपका फेस ठीक है, अच्छा लग रहा है. साउंड ब्रेक कर रहा है. हाँ सर 42.
Rohit, move forward. Rohit, if there are any other question.
Yes.
हाँ जी रोहित जी बोलिए.
Yes. So next question is for 115 TD. The MMR is 30% plus 12% plus 4%.
MMR is 37%. मैक्सिमम मार्जिनल रेट सरचार्ज हाईएस्ट रेट पे होगा सर.
Yes.
हाँ जी.
Sir, Mr. Manoj Tiwari.
Yes.
Sir, it is specifically given in the Finance Act that for 115 TD the surcharge rate is 12% only, sir.
Sir, there is a proviso, and I hope it is being revised, sir.
Sir, I am having the Finance Act 2020.
Yes, sir. That's what I am saying. There is a question of revision now. Because
Okay. Sir.
They are changing it, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Whatever you are saying is correct, but they are going to change the definition of MMR, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
They are going to change the definition. Yes.
The next question. In section 115 UA/UB, how to claim expenditure charged by business trust? There is no column in the return form to
Sir,
claim expenses
there
charged.
are 2 points. Please understand. Any business income of alternate investment funds or business funds. Business income is their income. but any income other than business income will be income of unit holder, or any loss of other than business loss will be loss of unit holder. Am I clear?
Sir, the business trustees are charging some expenses from unit holders.
No, I don't
How to claim that expenses?
Business trust is
Charging some expenses from unit holder. When they give their accounts, they are giving your interest income is this much, your capital gain income is this much, and these are the expenses it has been charged, administrative expenses charged from unit holders.
so this is the income of business trust, na? You are going to take
No, how I am talking about in the hands of unit holders.
unit holder is, this is for business.
No, I am talking.
You are talking about unit.
Yes.
What I am saying.
Yeah, I am talking about unit holders.
Unit holder.
Pass through income.
For unit holder, business income is not unit holder's income. Any income other than business income is of unit holder. Any income other than business income, like for unit holder, this business income is income in the hands of trust. So for you, basically,
Yes.
this is not a question. This cannot be your question. Are you getting what I am saying?
Sir, I am confused little bit. One of my clients, he has invested in business trust, and he is getting from them interest income and capital gain income. But against those interest income and capital gain income, the business trustees are charging certain administrative expenses. I am talking about those administrative expenses in the hands of unit holder.
एक बात बताइए, आपका एक्सपेंडिचर नेट, आपको तो नेट देता है ना, चार्ज करता है, आपको तो इनकम नेट।
हाँ, नेट सर, लेकिन
ये आपका क्रॉस होगा।
नहीं सर, नेट होना चाहिए।
आपका तो इनकम नेट हुआ, तो आपको क्या मतलब है?
लेकिन सर ITR फॉर्म में जो कलम है उसमें नहीं है।
एक काम करना सर, आपका डिटेलिंग करके मुझे मेल कर देना, मेरा मेल आईडी ले लेना।
ठीक है सर,
मैं आपको
हाँ जरूर
करूंगा। हाँ जी, और कोई क्वेश्चन है?
Rohit, any other question?
That's it from the chat box.
वाह, अब आइए मेंबर्स भी बोलेंगे ना जी।
Any other question from anybody? Any question from the audience?
देखिए, इसका दो मतलब होता है माहेश्वरी जी, या तो किसी को कुछ समझ में नहीं आया या सब कुछ समझ में आया।
No, we are all learned audience, no? We have understood everything.
I'm obliged.
So now I think it's time to present the vote of thanks. But before that, I'll just put across a word of thanks from the entire chapter to Sri Tiwari ji for his invaluable time spent with us. And I thank all the participants also. What a wonderful session it was. And we have been enlightened very much on this topic. Now I request my fellow member, L. Dhananjoy Sharma, to offer the formal vote of thanks.
Audible? Yes, as we have come to the conclusion of today's virtual CPM meeting organized by CP Imphal chapter, I would like to thank on behalf of CP chapter Imphal to our speaker, CA Manoj Kumar Tiwari, for sharing an in-depth analysis on the recent amendments in the income tax and income tax forms. It was indeed a very knowledgeable and productive session for all the participants. Audible, right?
Yes. You are audible. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I would also like to thank a member, CA Jyoti Jain, for introducing our speaker, and CA Rohit for conducting the questions. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our very active convener CA Maheshwari and Deputy Convener CA Ashish Jain, without their efforts, this VCM could not have been possible. And lastly, I would thank, all my thanks goes out to all the fellow members and colleagues who have joined from different parts of the country and participated this VCM meeting. And I would like to also mention that this very informative session can be rewatched on YouTube channel Ashish Jain. So please go and visit Ashish Jain to rewatch. In case anybody has doubts, please rewatch it on Ashish Jain's channel. It'll be live after some time. So wish you all a very happy weekend, and thank you all once again.
Thank you, Dhananjay. So before we break off, I would request our eminent speaker to kindly share the PPT for the benefit of our members.
I'll send PPT.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Send PPT to you, no issues.
And I thank once again each one of you for your valuable time spent with us today. Stay safe in this COVID period. God bless us all. Thank you. Good night. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good night.